Hi and welcome to another Essential Lightroom video tutorial. In this week's episode we're going to be checking out how we can create this pretty cool looking effect that I've named the Teal and Orange Hipster. It's going to be part of the Hipstergram 2 preset pack that will be available very soon, but I'm going to take you step by step through and show you how you can create this effect for yourself. So stick around, check it out and get started. So I'm going to take you step by step through so you can create this effect yourself. There's also a preset that's going to be available as part of the Hipstergram 2 preset pack, and that'll be available very soon, and this is one of those presets that's included. So if you like the presets that we offer, there are a ton of free ones available on the website. We also have a whole range of commercial presets that are available at great prices. If you'd like to take a look at some of those, the link is in the description below so you can check out both the free and the commercial options. Anyway, let's crack on now and take a look at how we can create this effect. So first of all, we're in the develop module, so just press D on the keyboard. I'm going to jump over to the basics panel so we can start working with everything. Next up, let's just reset this image back to its original default. So this is the image we started working with. So let's go through now and start creating this effect. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get an overall sort of like a slight teal and orange effect to the image to sort of really get a nice looking effect on it, a nice sort of cinematic movie effect. So the first thing we're going to do with this is we're going to grab the temperature. At the moment it's a little bit warm, so we're going to drag that down to the left hand side to take it a little bit more sort of into the blue region to cool it down a little bit. Then we're going to leave the tint as it is. The exposure is fine on this example, but what we're going to do next is we're going to grab this contrast and we're going to start to flatten the image out. Take that down to about -30, somewhere around there. That's going to sort of start to flatten things out. I'm going to take that another step further in a moment when we jump over to the tone curve, but this is kind of where we want to start. Next off, I want to boost the highlights in this. I want to sort of start to blow things out a little bit. So we're going to push those up probably to about +50, somewhere in that kind of region. Open the shadows up a little bit so we can have a little bit more detail in those. We start to flatten those out. We'll see some of the actual foliage and the leaves and the grass and things along those lines. Whites, they're pretty good. We're going to leave those where they are. We're going to drag the blacks down just to give us a little bit more of that contrasty look. Somewhere around there is looking pretty good. So that's a good starting point. Next off, we're going to grab the clarity and we're going to give that a kick to really sort of get some nice definition in those edges. Some nice contrast between the highlights and the shadows. Next up, we want to desaturate this a little bit because we're going to introduce our own color into this. So first things first, let's grab the vibrance and we're going to cool down or get rid of some of those sort of warmer tones. So the sort of sky is going to start to go a little bit more desaturated. And we're going to grab the saturation to desaturate the rest of the image down as well. Somewhere around that kind of point. So we've just got a hint or suggestion of the original colors left in there. Next up, we're going to jump over to the tone curve panel. We're going to start to adjust the tone inside the image to get the kind of effect that I'm looking for. So for this step, we're just going to add a couple of extra points in there. We're going to create a really, really simple curve. So we'll add a couple of extra points at the intersecting sections. Don't worry too much if you move those, we're going to adjust them anyway. First thing we're going to do is we're going to come to the lightest parts of our image. We want to crush the whites on there. So we're going to just dull those whites down a little bit. Then we're going to do exactly the same on the blacks. We're just going to crush those blacks down. Not going to go crazy with this, but it's going to have a nice effect. Next up, we're just going to accentuate some of these sort of tones, the highlights. Going to boost those up a little bit. Sort of kick that those whites up nice and light. And we're just going to bring the shadows just down a little bit. So we're creating a bit of an S curve in there. Actually, let's just pull those blacks up just ever so slightly. There we go, that's looking better. So there's before and there's after. So you can see quite a considerable difference just by using the tone curve alone. So once we finish with that, we'll close that down and we're going to move on to the next panel. Okay, so now that we've gone through and we've adjusted the tonality of the image and we've desaturated it, the thing I want to do now is jump over to the camera calibration. The reason I'm jumping to this now is because I wanted to change the colors that are in the image to give it that sort of orange and teal look, and then we're going to accentuate and tweak those to make sure we get the best results. So all I'm going to do is we're going to simply come down to the blue primary and we're just going to take that over into the teal area. Probably around about -60 is a good point. And what we're going to do then is we're going to jump up to the hue for the red primary and we're going to take that over to the oranges. And you should start to see the image start to take on that classic blue and teal, or orange and teal, sorry, look. So let's take a look before, take a look at after. So you can see the sky, if you take a look at the top, those teal colors are really starting to punch up, and we've got this nice warm glow in the sort of orange sunlight that's coming in the bottom right hand corners. You can adjust this based upon the image that you're working with, kind of go where you think it works best, but for me that's a pretty good starting point. Now I can go over and start adjusting some of the other colors in this image and start to really get it fine-tuned to where I want it to be. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump over to the color panel. Now normally I'd use the HSL, or the hue, saturation and luminance channels, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak the colors independently. So I'm going to do it all in one simple panel and separate my colors out a little bit. It's a great way of working. You can do all exactly the same as this by using the all section on here, and you can go through the colors you want, but for this example we're going to use the color panel. First of all, we're going to jump over to the red. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust the hue and the saturation and the luminance on this channel. So we're going to grab the hue and we're going to start pulling that down to sort of give it a more sort of purple kind of tint. Probably around about there. Saturation, we're just going to boost that up a little bit. Not go crazy. I don't want to go sort of hyper realistic. I just want to sort of accentuate those warm tones. And the luminance, we're going to start to bring those down so we can darken those red tones in our image. Next over, we can jump over to the orange, and this is where we should start to notice a nice change to the overall tone, the overall color in the image. Again, we're not going to go crazy with this. We're just going to start to tweak. I'm going to grab the hue. We're going to pull that down a little bit. You can see as I change that, if you take a look at the warm tones in the background, you can see they start to change. So we're going to drag that down. Around about that point looks pretty good. We're going to grab the saturation. We're just going to pull that down ever so slightly, not crazy. And then the luminance is where you're going to see the biggest difference. We're going to pull that down and just darken those tones down a little bit. Probably right about there. So let's take a look at before and take a look at after. So you can see we're really starting to influence those colors in there. Next up, we're going to jump over to the blue section and start making some changes in there. So by adjusting the blues, we're going to find the sky. That's where you're going to notice the biggest difference with this. And again, we're going to adjust the actual hue of those blues. So if we have any blues left in there, we're going to start to take those over more towards the teal kind of thing. So around about there looks pretty good. Saturation, we're going to give that just a little bit of a kick. And the luminance, we're going to darken that down. Again, keep an eye on the sky because that's when you're going to see the big differences. So let's take a look. Now we've made those changes to the color section. Let's take a look at before and take a look at after. And as you can see, it sort of pulls out the detail in the actual bottom right hand corner. We've got the warmer tones and the sky just takes on a bit more punch, a little bit more interest to it. So we're getting there. We're getting pretty close now. So we can now move on to the next panel. We're going to take a look at some split toning. Okay, so let's just jump into the split toning now, and I want to just bring some color into the shadow area. So what we're going to do is we're just going to set the hue to be up in the blue tone somewhere. That's a good starting point, and we're just going to bring in some saturation. Not go crazy. Probably around about that kind of point. It's looking pretty good. And now we can adjust these to basically adjust how warm or cool we want this image to kind of appear in the shadows. So I want to take this, kind of just hinting towards the green tones. Somewhere around there looks pretty good. So let's take a look at the before and after. So you can see it just pulls the saturation down ever so slightly just by cooling those shadows down a little bit. That's all I want to do with those. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now the final thing I want to do for this particular image, and that's just to draw attention to the character that's in there, I'm going to come down to the effects section and we're just going to add a little bit of a sort of vignette in there, probably around about that kind of point, just to sort of draw your eyes in a little bit. Again, pretty subtle, but it helps to sort of draw your attention to the sort of figure that's standing there in the shadows. So this is where we are. This is where I want to finish up. So if we take a look at the before and take a look at the after, you can see it's a much more stylized image, the kind of thing you'd see on Instagram. Very, very cool, kind of trendy hipster effect at the moment. And that's all there is to it. Well, like I say, this is going to be part of the Hipstergram 2 preset pack. You get a head start on this. You can create it yourself and see what you think of it. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and smash that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all the new content we add every single week. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback on this video or anything else covered on the channel, please pop those in the comment section below. Until next time, take care.